First round's going to be electrifying. That's what we're hearing. You put out your final mock when? Tomorrow?
Yeah, going to get posted tomorrow night, right before the draft on Thursday. And I've been on the phones nonstop for the last 48 hours, including this morning. I've got some interesting updates on what I'm thinking based on last week. And the feedback I'm getting, there will be trades. There will be trades up. There will be trades down. And the quarterbacks are going to be very, very, very much in play. And I'm not talking just the top 4. I think the top 6, including Penix and Nix, all in the first half.
Okay,
Shregs,
just to stop you right there, just as a program, and we just chatted about it, Penix was minus 130 to be a first rounder last week. Where's he at now?
Minus 220.
Yeah. Okay, so that's moved quite a bit. We were able to get that, though, last week whenever we saw it because we're big fans of Penix. And with how much they're talking about needing a quarterback, needing rookie quarterback, too, because much cheaper, you see, than a veteran quarterback. It's like we thought with what his tape was, what his 40 was, and I think you were the one telling us that the medicals have come back clear on him, or maybe Schefter did. I forget who exactly said that. It's like, well, why wouldn't you want a guy that was able to lead 2 different. When he was at Indiana, he was winning at Indiana, and that hadn't happened in a long time. And then he goes to Washington and gets him to the national championship. It's like, what are we even talking about here? This feels like a guy we'd want. And then let's talk about Bo Nix. Everybody's tying Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos. Now, Denver Broncos just make a big trade for Zach Wilson. Congrats to all parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Congrats to all parties there. But Bo Nix has been linked to the Broncos. Is that what you're hearing as well? And why are we hearing that, you think?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I would say this with the Broncos. You're looking at a team with the 12th overall pick, and, J.J. McCarthy is going to be the 4th quarterback taken. That's what I think. Does Denver move up to take J.J. McCarthy? Do they sit at 12 and take Nix or Penix? Or do they move back a little bit, and that's where they get a Nix or a Penix? But I would think the Zach Wilson trade, and 3 years ago, he was the 2nd overall pick in the draft, and Sean Payton has thrived with guys who have been discarded by their first teams. And I'm talking about Kerry Collins. I'm talking about Drew Brees. I'm talking about Jameis Winston. I'm talking about Teddy Bridgewater. Like, I know Sean, he looks at this as like, okay, watch what I can do. And let me get my hands on Zach Wilson. So I wouldn't say they're done, though. I would say a quarterback is very much in play for the Denver Broncos in the first round of this draft.
Shregs, I think it's widely well known, potentially right now, that the Cardinals are definitely shopping number 4. Do we know, are the Chargers also shopping number 5? Do we have any clue what the Chargers are potentially doing at 5?
Tone, I love you. I don't know if the Cardinals are shopping or listening to those. And I think there's a distinction there because they're the type of team that, and I think Schefter was wonderful this week reporting on it, they're not the ones who are going to be on the phone until actual draft day, and they'll answer and they'll figure it out and they'll maneuver. In Arizona, 4, fine. Chargers is interesting. So you got a new GM and Joe Ortiz, obviously, but it's Harbaugh's team. And it's like, what are the quarterback needy teams? Well, you've got 11, Minnesota. 12 is Denver. Would the Chargers trade within the division and give Denver the opportunity to move up to 5? I don't see it. I don't see them giving a division rival a trade partner at 5. And then 13 is the Raiders, another division rival. I don't see them doing that. So for the Chargers, the obvious connection is 11. And if you're Harbaugh, who, by the way, did have multiple interviews with the Vikings, and I don't know where that thing worked out a couple of years ago, but if you're Harbaugh, you'd much rather make a maneuver with the Vikings in the NFC North if they're looking for a quarterback. And also, you'd much rather put J.J. McCarthy, who you've said is the greatest quarterback in Michigan history. You'd rather put him with a team with 2 Ferraris at wide receiver, 2 offensive tackles already in Minnesota, and an offensive play caller in Kevin O'Connell and Aaron Jones in the backfield. Like, that's a good position for McCarthy. You put him there and you figure out that trade at 5 and 11, as opposed to saying 12 and 13, where I'm going to put J.J. McCarthy as a division rival and then also give them an opportunity to play him twice a year and beat me twice a year. I don't see that.
I didn't even think about the angle in which you laid that out there. Like, how many times have teams accepted the worst offer? Like a worse offer to keep.
It might happen.
Yeah, legit. That's how business go. Like choosing not to let somebody else benefit from a deal, especially in your division, is not a bad idea. Like, that is interesting to if we go back into history and we hear about these draft night trades. How many other offers were up there that we hadn't heard about?
I remember, like, Detroit traded with Minnesota in the Jamison Williams deal. That was a couple years ago. Like, there's very few.
Last year with Patriots Steelers, the Steelers got the tackle ahead of the Jets.
Yeah.
I agree. But what I'm saying is, how many teams have offered a package to a team that is like much better than this one. But this team in division, this team not in division, just being like, nah, we're actually going to do this. I would like to hear what some of these were.
Yeah.
Throughout history that never get announced or never heard. Like, what were some teams willing to give up to a division rival to make it?
It's really good.
Yeah.
It actually sounds like a good 30 for 30 or like a documentary, like the trades that weren't.
Yeah. Could you imagine if this happens in the division? Because there has to be nothing worse than somebody staying in the division and then just cooking you. And
cooking you.
Yeah, absolutely doing. This
one is the next level with Harbaugh's relationship with McCarthy. So it's like
he's been saying he's the best quarterback in the class because they're at 5. He would love for 4 quarterbacks to go 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of him in this entire thing. So there's always some maneuvering. Let's talk about it a little bit deeper in the draft. Tosh Schmidt has a question for you, Shrakes.
Yeah, Shrakes, more towards the back half. Brian Gutekunst said, I think it was yesterday, that he's not opposed to trading up. Obviously, he did so for Jordan Love a couple years ago. But then some of those other teams we see, like the Bills, it's widely speculated, hey, they need to get a receiver. There's probably going to be a run. Don't know if there's going to be a bunch left in there. Are you hearing anything about some of those teams maybe being aggressive, trading up in the back half of the draft? Or is that something that they'll probably wait until they see how the board falls on Thursday night, and then we'll hear something?
It's a really interesting draft, and I'm not trying to take the sales out of day 2 and day 3 because it's going to be great. I keep on hearing more and more. There are 16 blue chip guys in this draft, and there are 6 quarterbacks. So put that all together. Let's say there's 20 guys that we know are going to go in the first round. If one of those quarterbacks falls, you better believe a team is going to try to trade back into that back third. Or if, for example, one of the top, corners, there's probably 3 or 4 corners that are going to go. If they fall back, they would trade up. Packer specific, they've been all over the board in recent years. We know that they don't take wide receivers in the first round. We know that they like their own tendencies and what they do. But I couldn't speak with any confidence knowing if the Packers are going to move up or move down. I would say this, though. You've probably got 2 pass rushers, Dallas Turner and Latu. You've probably got 3 corners. I'm going to put Mitchell, the Mac kid. I'm going to put Arnold from Alabama. I'm going to put Kool-Aid from Alabama. Those guys are all viewed as it. And then Byron Murphy as your big boy inside. And that might be your only surefire defensive first-round pick. So if you're a team that wants one of those guys, you might want to trade up a few spots to get one of them because they're probably going to go in the top 20.
Pre this particular draft, the record for most amount of offensive players drafted in the first round is 19. And everybody has said that number's about to get blown out of the water. We can't wait to look at your last mock draft. That'll be released tomorrow morning. We're excited for Good Morning Football being back Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Do we have any updates on when the King of New York is moving to the West Coast?
We don't know that yet. We'll figure that all out. We're looking. I keep on seeing the real estate in L.A. seems more than the real estate in New York City, which is crazy.
Yeah, I always enjoy that the smartest people on earth in our United States of America choose to live in the most expensive places on earth.